Mysteries of the Sacred Universe, Chapter 3, The Solar System in Projection.
Hello there. This video has been based on part of a Zoom presentation by Murali Gopal. He holds a PhD in physics and also taught Sanskrit at the University of Florida. He's been a research associate of the Bhagavat Institute for Higher Studies since 2015, and since then he's run a number of seminars based on Sadaputa's book, Mysteries of the Sacred Universe. So let's get to it.
First, some terms. The celestial sphere is a conceptual sphere around the Earth that projects the objects in the sky onto its surface. Now, the use of a stereographic projection allows one to effectively map the Earth and the celestial sphere onto a flat plane, enabling easier analysis of the movements of stars and planets. The Earth globe, represented as a stereographic projection, means that the North Pole is at the centre and the Southern Hemisphere will be on the periphery. When we do this, there are certain features described in the Srimad Bhagavatam about Bhumandala, the Earth circle, that we need to omit. Instead of having the huge concentric circles which double as you get further out, in this model the circles need to be of narrow, equal distances. Now, what if we do the reverse projection, turn Bhumandala into a globe? In this, the base of Meru roughly matches the Arctic region. Bharatvash would roughly be the size of Greater India, and the boundary of the Isle of Jambudvip would reach the equator. Historically, people have worked with this projection. For example, there's a globe which was commissioned by Maharaj Jai Singh of Jaipur, dating back to the 18th century. In that, we notice the aforementioned circles are placed in the southern hemisphere. Now, the Bhagavatam does place the Earth at the centre of the solar system, indeed the universe. This is just relative point of view in space, and it is practical and convenient. Back in the day, Vedic astronomy was related to astrology. Now some might ask, is the Bhagavatam describing a literal flat plane? Well, no. There are verses which contradict the flat earth theory. The scripture describes a sharp day and night boundary which suits the planisphere model but not as a literal flat plane. A good example is the 5th canto 21 text 8 and 9. The ecliptic is a circle on the celestial sphere representing the sun's path during the year through the zodiac. The ecliptic path as it contacts the Earth is the hottest annual path of the sun. Because the Earth with its poles and equator is tipped 23 degrees from the sun, it means that when the annual ecliptic path is represented on a planisphere, it's an off-centered circle. Looking at a planisphere on a daily and nightly basis. First, quickly look at the speeded up movement of the sun throughout the day from our point of view. On a planisphere, the same motion is going around in a clockwise motion day and night, like this. One revolution once every 24 hours. The Bhagavatam's description of day and night doesn't make sense on a flat Earth, but it does for a planisphere. Notice the day and night demarcation is more like an arch and not a straight line. That is most noticeable during the summer and winter solstices. Again, this is tipped by 23 degrees. That gives us the seasons. Over the course of a year, the zodiac and ecliptic circle sweeps around the Earth relative to a stationary planisphere. That slower movement will be anti-clockwise overall. When the Bhagavatam describes the sun as north-going, Udagayana, and south-going, Dakshinayana, it fits the sun's anti-clockwise movement along the ecliptic throughout the year, north and south of the equator. Again, this only makes sense on a planisphere. Let's touch on the context of Priyavata's chariot in the 5th canto's 1st chapter. We read his sun-like Viman, flying machine, chariot flew in the sky, tracing a similar path to the sun itself. It made the days longer in the winter seasons for the citizens on Earth. Both Lord Chaitanya and Bamsidhara mentioned that the sun crosses Bhumandala's dweeps. Priyavata's Vimana is also said to cross the dweeps. In this model, it seems the dweeps are the concentric circle on the Earth's planisphere. Now, there are strong conceptual parallels between Puranic cosmology and astrolabes. The first existing historical evidence of their use comes from Theon of Alexandria and his daughter Hypatia in the 4th century, but details of its origin are unclear. Astrolabes were used to make astronomical measurements, typically on the altitudes of celestial bodies, and in navigation for calculating latitude. The practical using of one can be studied elsewhere online. According to the figures in the Bhagavatam, converted from Diogenes, the Sun is 800,000 miles above the Earth. That's very small compared with the Earth-Sun distance in modern astronomy. However, it is not a reference to physical distance, but how things are on a kind of three-dimensional planisphere, an astrolabe. On an astrolabe, there is a ring representing the orbit of the Sun, the ecliptic, and a series of points representing the locations of the stars. There's also a separate plate for the orbit of the Moon. So when the Bhagavatam says the Moon is higher than the Sun, in the astrolabe planisphere context, it makes sense. Sadaputa made a table which showed the heights of the planets and key stars above the Bhumandala Earth plane. Again, especially when you include the stars, namely the nakshastras and the sapta rishis, these are not linear physical distances. And note that when you apply the diameter of Bhumandala of its full 4 billion miles, it's all relatively flat, just like our actual solar system is generally flat. However, I must add that when looking at this from the perspective of other models, planetary heights may have something to do with reaching them in the subtle body. Anyway, thanks for watching.